Ram Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Giridhari Radha Giridhari Radhe Radhe. Jaya Jagannath Jaya Jagannath Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. I'm now starting reading from Prabhupada Lilamrita. We're reading chapter 7. Just sharing the screen first. Can everybody see my screen now?
Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mother. So I'm reading. Short and stocky, Dr. Shastri, just beginning his career in Ayurvedic medicine, was an active young man fascinated by Abhay's purity and his vision of a world movement for distributing India's culture. Older men like tall Shove, Ramcharan, Hayacharan Mitra, and utensil shopkeeper who wrote poetry and wore a white Nehru cap also wanted to learn more about Lord Chaitanya from Abhay. Dr. Malik, who was the Gita Mandir secretary, and Dr. Siddhi from the university, along with their wives, had sincerely approached Abhay after his talk and asked him, please to visit Jhansi again. Abhay had come to them not as a pharmaceutical salesman or as a man with family concern, but purely as a devotee of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Although the specific applications of Krishna consciousness as given by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati were now to the audience, these teachings had interested them, and the more Abhay had expressed these teachings and spoken of his ambitions for spreading Krishna's message, the more his hearers had encouraged him. Several of them had suggested he conduct his mission in Jhansi, and they had promised to help him. Dr. Shastri had even invited Abhay to come live with him. He would introduce Abhay to important citizens and arrange for lectures in various meetings or places of Jhansi. After staying for 10 days, Abhay had returned to Allahabad, but remembering Jhansi, he had been unable to concentrate on his business. Something more important was on his mind, the need for an association of devotees propagating the teachings and practices of Krishna consciousness worldwide. With the Gaudiya Math now broken into permanent schisms, his godbrothers conducting their own private ashramas in separate locales, apparently impervious to any reconciliation. Something would have to be done if overwhelming atmosphere of goodness were to be corrected. There must emerge, as Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati has envisioned, a league of preachers with active worldwide. The nations of the world had sought unity through the League of Nations, and recently through the United Nations. The League had failed, and so would the United Nations, unless it recognized the truth spiritual unity and equality of all living beings in terms of their intimate relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Abhay did not expect any good to come of such organizations. Though they wanted peace and unity, their attempts were simply another feature of godlessness. No, creating peace and unity was the duty of a Vaishnava. So I'm stopping here. And share the screen. Sharing the screen from. Just opening the screen. So everybody can see my screen now?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naranchaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udhirayet Srinnatam Shakata Krishna Punna Savana Kittanam Vidhi Antasto Hi Avadrani Vidhunoti Shurit Nashta Prayasya Abhadreshu Nittam Bhagavat Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki. So today we are reading from Canto 4, chapter 21 and verse 30. The heading of the heading of the canto is the creation of the fourth order, and in chapter 21 is the heading is a instruction by Prithu Maharaj. And so verse 30. Ekodashin Mahashatra Diksha Tatra Divokasham Samajo Brahmarshinam Cha Rajarshinam Cha Sattam Ekodashin Mahashatra Diksha Tatra Divokasham Samajo Brahmarshinam Cha Rajarshinam Cha Sattam Ekodashin Mahashatra Diksha Tatra Divokasham Samajo Brahmarshinam Cha Rajarshinam Cha Sattam. Hare Krishna. Anybody wants to recite, please?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, please continue.
Ekadashin Mahashatra Diksha Tatra Divashakam Samajo Brahma Rishinam Cha Raja Rishinam Cha Sattama. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Anyone else?
Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhuji, you go first.
Thank you, Mataji. Ekadasin Mahasatra Diksha Tatra Divav Kasham Samajo Brahma Rishinam Cha Rajarshinam Cha Sattama. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Ekodashin Mahashatra Diksha Tatra Divaukasham Samaja Brahmarshinam Cha Rajarshinam Cha Sattama. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam. I am also trying.
Yes, Mataji, please continue.
Ekadashin Mahashatra Diksha Tatra Divaukasham Samajo Brahmarshinam Cha Rajarshinam Cha Satyama. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else? So, can anyone please read out the synonyms, please?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Once upon a time, Ashi took a vow. Mahashatra, great sacrifice. Diksha, initiation, tatra, in that function, diva okasham, of the demigod, Shamaja, assembly, Brahma Rishinam, of great saintly Brahmanas, Cha, also, Rajarishinam, of great saintly kings, Cha, also, Sattama, the greatest of devotees. Thanks.
Thank you. And the translation, anyone, please?
Yes, Prabhu, I can go ahead.
Thank you, Motherji.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Once upon a time, King Prithu initiated the performance of a very great sacrifice in which great saintly sages, Brahmanas, demigods from higher planetary systems, and great saintly kings known as Rajarsis all assembled together.
And now it is a purport. Purport is also small. Can
Okay,
I-
sure. Yeah. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In this verse, the most significant point is that although King Prithu's residential quarters were in India, between the rivers Ganges and Yamuna, the demigods also participated in the great sacrifice he performed. This indicates that formerly the demigods used to come to this planet. Similarly, great personalities like Arjuna, Yudhishthira, and many others used to visit higher planetary systems. Thus, there was interplanetary communication via suitable airplanes and space vehicles. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji, for. So I am now trying to sharing the doc. So we put Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namo Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Padamaya Dadati Shapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Pada Kamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavanscha Sri Rupam Shagrajatam Shavana Raghunathan Nitam Tam Sajivam Shadvaitam Shapadutam Parijana Saita Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Shavana Lalita Sri Vishakamitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanto Radha Kanto Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Bindavaneshwari Vishavanu Shute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Pipashintu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishtaya Bhutale Prabhupada Sri Shubha Goswami Sada Dhanya Shri Shubhadaya Sarva Jiva Pipabde Guru Shiksha Sadacharo Palopaya Namastute Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshodarini Namo Mahapadannaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Gaurutishe Namo Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pungum Langhayati Girim Yat Kipatamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam Sri Guru Dinataram. Hare Krishna, everybody. So we find in this verse, in this particular verse, that Prithu Maharaj has initiated the performance of a very great yajna or sacrifice. He has invited all the great saintly sages, great brahmanas, saintly brahmanas, and saintly kings, and also the demigods from the other planetary system. Now, one thing we'll try to discuss today, three things. First is why we perform yajna in the first time at all, and what is the present day's yajna, or what is our what yajna we should perform in the present day, and our relationship. And it is also mentioned the demigods are invited. So demigods from higher planetary systems were also invited on that yajna. So what is our relation with the demigods, and how they can help us, and we can and what is their real situation or their position vis-a-vis the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Third, if time permits, that is how the demigods previously come to this Earth planet, and there were exchange of communications between the demigods and the human being. So first, we are trying to tell about why we perform yajna or sacrifice. So anyone who is in this material world has certainly or definitely got material contamination or impure propensity. And such polluted propensities, we have to clear these propensities for our spiritual journey towards Krishna consciousness. In this material world, when under the influence of natural law of three modes of material nature, we are always compelled to do something. And this is the nature, because the very nature of the soul is to remain always active. And so when the soul is active, we have to do certain work always. And there, in fact, in the beginning of chapter 3 of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna was thinking at one stage that by Buddhi Yoga, because in the previous chapter, chapter 2, Lord Krishna has told him how to be peaceful in terms of while doing the work. And Esha Brahmistiti in 272 said, Esha Brahmistiti Partho Noinam Himuyati Antokale Vicho Antokalecho. That was that he was trying to tell. That, and then one has to remain peaceful. That is most important. And so Arjuna had the misconception, at least he has the wrong understanding at this time. He is thinking that by doing Krishna consciousness, one becomes inactive. He has not to do the work. What the Krishna was initially was trying to tell him to do. So what he did, he was thinking that is Krishna consciousness is inactive thing, but the Lord Krishna told him that Krishna consciousness is not retirement from activities, but rather working for the satisfaction of Krishna. And to be exact on that one, he said on verse 3.8, Niyatam kuru karma tvang karma jayo hi akarmanaha sharira yatra pichote no prasiddhet akarmanaha. That means he's telling that Niyatam kuru, perform your prescribed duty, for doing so is better than not working. Karma jahi akarmana. Not doing anything, that is not good. You have to do your duties. So prescribed duty you have to do. And even to maintain our physical body, we have to work. Because to maintain our body, how we can maintain it? So unless we work, we cannot even maintain our body. To make body and soul together by some work, we have to work. So we cannot or should not give up our prescribed duties without purification of our materialistic propensities. Now, to purify our material propensities, that is hard contamination, we have told contamination or the polluted propensities. And what is that? Desire, where it comes from? It comes from our desire to independently enjoy the material nature, excluding Krishna. But that is not possible, which manifests as a desire for sense gratification. So in this material world, we have a desire to sense enjoyment, and it comes from the polluted, contaminated propensity. It is called contaminated propensity. It is a contamination of the heart that we want to do our duties for sense enjoyment. So prescribed duties are meant for cleansing that heart. So prescribed duty is a way by which we can cleanse our heart. Now again, the next verse, Sri Krishna is telling to us, Yagyarthat karmana annatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha tadartha karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. But any work that we do other than yajna or sacrifice causes bondage in this material world. That means if we do punya karma, we have to enjoy its result. If we do not do it for the God, and if we do and bikarma, that we have to suffer its consequence. In both the cases, it binds us. So what happened after that? Next verse, Sri Krishna is telling that Shaha Yagya Praja Sishta Puravacha Prajapati Anena Prashavishaddham Esha Bosto Ishta Kamagu. Therefore, in the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods. You see, the demigod is coming here. The first mention in here, in verse 3.9 in Bhagavad Gita, it said, "Be thou be happy by this yajna sacrifice, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation." So here starts our relationship with the demigods. It's mentioned. Now, what is the purpose of this material creation? As we have told, the purpose of this material creation, the Lord has made to purify us, giving us a chance that this conditioned soul, which we are contaminated, we get an opportunity to go back to Godhead. And it is a chance by performing our yajna for the satisfaction for the Lord, because ultimate Jagjapati is the Supreme Lord. By satisfying him, we get the opportunity to purify our senses. And nothing should be done for the satisfaction of senses. So through yajna, we get the opportunity to purify our existence and satisfy the Lord. Now the question is, as I have told just now, that the relationship with demigod has come here. Who are the demigods? The demigods are the empowered administrators of these material affairs. And what they do, they are like the administrative heads of different departments. Just like in a present day, we see that in a government, there are various departments. One has got a power department, one has got finance department, another has got waterworks department. In these different departments is there. These demigods are empowered administrators of different departments of the Lord. The Lord has arranged it. So in the supreme creation, they are doing the administrative jobs on behalf of the Supreme Lord. They supply air, the supply of air, light, water, and other benedictions are for maintaining our body and soul for any living entity, not only human being, but all the animals and insects, plants, trees, all of them, all of us get the supply of our necessities, so done through demigods. So demigods are the suppliers, and they are, in other words, they are also part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, but they are assisting him, the Supreme Lord, in doing duties. By doing their duty, they are helping the Supreme Lord. So, and when if we can please by our yajna, or if we successfully do a yajna, they are pleased. And if we do not do that, they are displeased. And so pleasures and displeasures are dependent on our performing yajna by the human being. And one should also remember that, or we should also know that they are not independent authority. They cannot do it out of their own accord. They are doing it on behalf of the Supreme Lord. What the Supreme Lord has authorized them, they do that. We'll discuss it also at a later stage, also in this particular point, how they are dependent. Now, in the next verse, because there it is explained also, that what the Supreme Lord has told, Devan bhavayatan te deva bhavayantu va parasparam bhavayanto sreyo param avakshataho. When the demigods are pleased by our sacrifice, they also please us. How they please us? And by supplying the necessary things, and by cooperation between us, that means human beings, and the demigods, prosperity reigns for us. We want to please them, and they want to please us by supplying the necessities of life. So when these yajnas are perfectly performed, as I've told, naturally the demigods in charge of various departments supply various suppliers of various departments are pleased, and there is no scarcity in the supply of natural products. Thus, happiness in the world is guaranteed. And what is the another side effect of performing yajna? That is gradual purification, as we told. There is a gradual purification. We gradually get purified by performing yajna. This happens, how it happens? It happens in this way. By performance of yajna, when we perform a yajna, all activities that we do, that is yajna, it becomes purified. And it is stated in the Vedas that ahar shuddho, shatta shuddho, shatta shuddho, dhruvo smriti, smriti lambe, sarvagranthina, vipramoksha. That means by performing yajna, one eatables or the things we eat, eatables, becomes sanctified. And by eating the sanctified foodstuff, our existence becomes purified. And by the purification of our existence, finer tissues in the memory becomes sanctified. When memory becomes sanctified, what happens? When the memory is sanctified, one can think of the path of liberation from this material bondage. And all this, and when all combined together, they lead to Krishna consciousness. And as we know, the Krishna consciousness is the greatest necessity of the present day society. So to sum up, we can say the fulfilling the material, the perfect yoga is fulfilling the material desire and purify the heart to elevate our consciousness, to elevate our consciousness beyond this material world. Now, but one thing we must remember, as I have also told earlier, that all this is being done. The demigods are not the ultimate enjoyers of this yajna. The Yagyapati is the Supreme Lord, that means Lord Krishna. In 529, it is clearly mentioned, Bhuktaram Yagyatapasham Sarvalo Pomashram Suridam Sarvabhutanam Yattamam Shantim Richati. That means that he is the supreme enjoyer, and one who knows that, he knows the real purpose of yajna. Because yajna is not really meant for, we are doing, it was what is mentioned in chapter 3 is to satisfy the demigods, but in this way, we are trying to satisfy the Supreme Lord, because he is the supreme enjoyer. The demigods are not the supreme enjoyer. And in fact, there is another, I must quote another verse in Bhagavad Gita. It is 9.24. It is mentioned that where it is mentioned that one who does not understand that Supreme Lord is the supreme enjoyer, he falls down, and it is mentioned in 9.24. Om Bhukta, just a moment, I have to see my point. Aham sarva yajnanam bhukta cha prabhurevo cha na tu mam abhijananti tattena sato chabayanti te. It means I am the only enjoyer and master of all sacrifices. Therefore, those who do not recognize my true transcendental nature fall down. It is telling there that unless we know that who is the supreme enjoyer, there is a tendency that we will do yajna for the demigods, for their satisfaction. But we are doing yajna for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. And in the next verse also it is saying, Yanti Devabrata Devan, Pitrinanti Pitribrata, and Bhutani Yanti, Bhuteja Yanti, Majjadino Pima. That means the Lord is telling, if one doesn't know that, they will restrict themselves to yajna for the satisfaction of the demigods. But if they do for the demigods, they will go to the abodes of the demigod, but not to the supreme goal. So in that way, they will be misdirected. And that's why we must always know that sacrifice is to be done for the satisfaction of Vishnu, because it is because, as I have told earlier also, that the Lord is a original source of all everything. So the demigods are working on their behalf, so on his behalf. So the demigods are not the final authority; they are the intermediary agents on behalf of the Supreme Lord. And But one may say that why then the purpose, why the demigods, there is a provision for the demigods. It is for those whose consciousness is not that strong, particularly for those who cannot think of the Supreme Lord and who are in a lower state of consciousness. They worship the demigods, but whose consciousness is elevated, they know that the Supreme Lord is the supreme beneficiary, and the Supreme Lord is to be ultimately served. So in this way, we know what is the purpose of the yajna. Now next, I am telling a few other things about the demigods and our relationship with them, what is the human beings' relationship with the demigods. As we have told, and I'm earlier told that they are part and parcel of the material. They are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, just as human beings are, and any other living being is part and parcel of the Lord. Similarly, the demigods are also part and parcel of the Lord, but they are also part of this material world. They are not part of the Lord's internal energy. They are just like we are in the Tatastha Shakti, or our body has. I mean, we have got a soul and we have got a body. And similarly, the demigods have also, they have got a body and soul, and they are similarly, as far as the constitutional position is concerned, they are same as human being, but their consciousness is much elevated. That's why they have got a different planets, and they are also subject to material nature. That means, what are the material nature? They are born and they die also after some time. So they have also specific time. Just as the life of Brahma is very long in terms of material things, he is almost in the sense it is unlimited almost life, but he has also death. And similarly, all the demigods will die one day. So, but their lifespan is much longer, and that is why it is mentioned that the planets where they stay is also subject to dissolution. And in Bhagavad Gita 8.16 here, it is mentioned that Abrahmo bhuvana loka punaravartino arjuna mamupetto tu kaunteo punarjanmo na vidyate. And it is telling all these planets are places of misery, and repeated birth and death take place there as well. So without going to the abode of the Lord, which is never destroyed, these planets are all who tries to just only pleases the demigods and go to their planets, they do not overcome the problem of birth and death. They remain in the miseries of repeated birth and death. And who are the persons who take shelter of the demigods? Less intelligent people who have lost their spiritual sense take shelter of demigods for immediate fulfillment of material desire. And in Bhagavad Gita 7.20 it is mentioned that kamastastirido jnana prabodhantarna devata tam tam niyamastaya prapita niyatashaya. So for immediate sense gratification, they serve the demigods and get the benefit. But we should always remember that this benefit also the demigods provide them is only when the Lord is satisfied, because he is the real sanctioner of the things being supplied to the demigods as well. And in Srimad Bhagavatam there is a verse which clearly says that the Lord is in control, and it says Madhvayad vati vatoyam sujastapoti madhvayad varshoti indro dahoti agni mrityuscharoti madhvayad. That means the Lord is saying that it is my supremacy that the wind blows, Bato Batoyam means the wind blows, and Surya out of fear of me, the sun shines out of fear of me, and Varshot Indra and the Lord of the clouds Indra, he sends his clouds and send for the showers for fear of me, and the fire burns out of fear of me, and the death, the young Raj also death takes its toll for fear of me. So it clearly says the Lord is in control, but the demigods are doing on behalf of the Supreme Lord. But if we please the demigods, mutually there is a good situation, and in this way the whole situation becomes favorable for us. And they cannot give us liberation because demigods are not authorized to do that, because they themselves are not they themselves are not free from the birth and death. And the other thing is that demigods also desire to take birth in this human form of life. One may ask how it is that the demigods want human form of life that is equipped with better facility. I'm just reading some of the in Srimad Bhagavatam. There is mention of it in chapter 19. So I'm reading from some of the verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 5. Sorry, Canto 5, chapter 19, and verse 20 onwards. Just one second, I'm just going there. I can also open. And in verse 20, it is mentioned that after 5, 19, and 20, after many births, when the results of one's pious activities mature, one gets an opportunity to associate with pure devotees. Then one is able to cut the knot of bondage to ignorance, which bound him because of very fruitive activities. As a result of associating with devotees, one gradually renders service to Lord Vasudeva, which is transcendental, free from attachment to material world, beyond the minds and words, and independent of everything. The Bhakti Yoga, devotional service to Lord Vasudeva, is the real path of liberation. So here the demigods are telling that they know it, and they say through Bhakti Yoga only one can get the Lord Vasudeva or Lord Krishna. So in the next verse it is saying why they're lamenting that they want to take birth also in this material world. They say, since human form of life is the sublime position of spiritual realization, all the demigods in heaven speak in this way. How they speak? They speak. They are speaking about our human beings' fortunate position. What is that? How wonderful it is for the human beings to have been born in the land of Bharatvarsha. They must have executed pious acts of austerity in the past, or the Supreme Personality of God Himself must have been pleased with them. Otherwise, how could they engage in devotional service in so many ways? We, the demigods, can only aspire to achieve human births in Bharatvarsha to execute devotional service, but these human beings are already engaged there. You see, the supreme demigods are lamenting that the human beings have got the better opportunity of devotional service than themselves. Because although the higher planets, there are so many avenues or opportunities for enjoyment of sense enjoyment, but they have very little scope for devotional service. And without devotional service, no one can go back to the personality of Godhead. So they are lamenting on that. And also, I'm just reading on that one, and after that I will say something. The demigods continue. After performing the very difficult, how they have gone to the higher planets, they are telling that after performing the very difficult task of executing Vedic ritualistic sacrifice, they have performed sacrifice, undergoing austerities, observing vows, giving charity. We have achieved this position as inhabitants of the heavenly planets. But what is the value of this achievement? Here, we are certainly very engaged in material sense gratification, and therefore we can hardly remember the lotus feet of the Lord Narayana. Indeed, because of our excessive sense gratification, we have almost forgotten his lotus feet. So next verse 23, it is telling a short life in the land of Bharatvarsha is preferable to the life achieved in Brahmaloka for billions and billions of years, because even if one is elevated to Brahmaloka, he must return to the repeated birth and death. So we see that demigods also lament that they want to have a life of human being in this particularly in Bharatvarsha, where there is opportunities for better devotional service. And Bharat Bhumi is also a Punya Bhumi in the sense that that it is a pious land. In the Shastra, we have seen that in Shastra it is mentioned that even the demigods in the heavenly planets, they desire to take birth in India. India is so glorious. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has specifically told that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu specifically to anyone who has taken birth in his Bharat Bhumi or India as a human being, his business is to first of all make himself perfect by taking advantage of the Vedic knowledge, because it is available only in India. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says the example in Bengali, the verse is Chaitanya Charitamrita is that ভারত ভূমিতে মনুষ্য জন্ম হইল যার জন্ম সার্থক করি করো পর উপকার. So that means first we have to janma sarthak, we have to first make ourselves perfect. Those who are born in India, or in other words who have the Indian, that culture, our first duty is to purify ourselves to become pure, and so that we know what is the goal of human life is not for sense enjoyment, but to have to go back to Godhead. So if we know it ourselves, when we know that, our duty is to spread that knowledge to others and then help others to make their life perfect. And I remember, I'm just quoting one, what Prabhupada has told in a conversation to a Sanskrit professor in Paris in August 1973, August 13. Prabhupada was saying, Bharat Bhumite Manusha, what I have just told in the words of Prabhupada in this treaty, Bharat Bhumite Manusha Janma Hoilo Jar. It is almost anyone who has taken birth as human being in his land of Bharatvarsha, Janma Sarthak Kori, making his life successful, Koro Poro Upokar. Poro Upokar means everyone is in slumber. So everyone is sleeping mode. And considering himself that he is the body, like cats and dogs. Therefore, they should be raised to the spiritual consciousness that you are not cats and dogs, you are Brahman. Just realize, Aham Brahmasmi. This is Parupokar. So we are doing that, and we are awakening everyone. Uttishta Jagrato Prapta Barav Nibodhato. You have got now human being form of life. Now get up and make your life successful by spiritual realization. This is our message. Sarve Shukino Bhavanti. By spiritual realization, everyone will become happy. Without spiritual realization, nobody can become happy. And this is our mission. So I'm about to conclude that, but before that, I am just saying a few words about our relation with the demigod, what it should be, other than the Yajna things. And in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the first canto, chapter 19, verse 18, where when Parikshit Maharaj is about to leave his body, at that time, the demigods were also came to this earthly planet, and Prabhupada has written as, I'm reading the purport of that. It's a very, very interesting and at the same time, very important also. And Prabhupada is telling that even up to the time of Maharaja Parikshit, there were interplanetary communication. and the news of Maharaja Parikshit's bursting into death to attain salvation reached the higher planets in the sky, where the intelligent demigods live. The demigods are more luxurious than human beings, but all of them are obedient to the orders of the Supreme Lord. There is no one in the heavenly planets who is an atheist or non-believer. Thus, any devotee of the Lord on the surface of the earth is always praised by them. And in case of Maharaja Parikshit, they were greatly delighted and thus gave tokens of honor by scattering flowers over earth and by beating celestial drums. A demigod takes pleasure in seeing someone go back to Godhead. He is always pleased with the devotee of the Lord, so much so that by his adidoivic power, he may help the devotees in all respect, and by their actions, the Lord is pleased with them. This is the invisible chain of complete cooperation between the Lord and the demigods and the devotees of the Lord on the earth. So in this concluding part, I'm just trying to impress that as we through Joggo and other things, we must build a good relationship with the demigod as well, because we must understand they are in a higher level of consciousness than us, and if we get their cooperation, our life, our devotional service becomes easy. And in this, as is clearly mentioned in the last part, it is that Adidoivik, they help us. Nowadays, the world is passing through a lot of trouble and the Adidoivik problems. There is drought, there is heavy rain, there is an earthquake. All these things are there. And if the demigods are pleased, these things they can keep a check. And in this way, they can help us in our devotional service also. So we should know that our relationship with the demigod, and as Prabhupada has rightly pointed out, by the mutual cooperation, they are also pleased when a devotee of the Lord goes back to Godhead. They are very pleased, and we see from the example of Parikshit Maharaj, they came and they showered the flowers from the head of Parikshit Maharaj that he is going back to Godhead. They are also pleased and happy. So we should, in our journey towards devotional service or going back to Godhead, the demigods can help us, and by mutual cooperation, we becomes elevated to go back to Godhead. I think that's all what I have to say right now, and I'm concluding. So if anybody has any realization, any point out any mistakes that I might have committed, I'm not qualified, so maybe committed a lot of mistakes, so please point it out to me, or if there's any comments or any other explanation, please do that. I'm happy to hear from everybody. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
What a beautiful and refreshing of Bhagavad Gita you just mentioned. Beautiful. Just you mentioned how the yagna is so important, and understanding in yagna in the right perspective, and why we do the yagna, who are demigods, what is our relation, and how you concluded by giving the example of Parikshit Maharaj. And Prabhupada stated in his lecture that whoever has taken birth in India, his prime duty to spread the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to help others to come into this mission and get themselves out of this material world. And finally, you conclude that very sentence, how the relation between the Lord demigod happens through the text 18 of Canto 1, Chapter 19. Very important for all of us to understand that there is an invisible chain of complete cooperation between the Lord, demigods, and the devotees of the Lord on earth. So we are actually inseparable. That's what you wanted to emphasize, and that is the real. So we are all in-house people cooperating each other so that the mission becomes successful. We are really inseparable, but we don't understand it and we miss it out. So we need to be very, very careful about our decision speaking, that we are not alone. We are all in the family, but it is stages, different stages of elevation. That's why the demigods are here to help us in the mission of our successful spiritual journey. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much for summing up everything what I have told. Thank you once again. Anybody else wants to share his thoughts and ideas?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dharma Pranam. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu, for the nice class. Quite a good overview of Yagna and the position of demigods. It would be interesting if you added the Yagna for Kali Yuga is Sankirtan Yagna, because we are not able to do all this Yagna in the present Kali Yuga situation.
Yes.
So Prabhupada emphasized and Lord Chaitanya emphasized the Yagna for Kali Yuga is Sankirtan Yagna. That's just a bit of addition, would be nice. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for the, and in fact, sorry, I missed it, and so I really thankful to you to just mention, yes, it is a mistake on my part that I have not included it, but I was thinking to tell, but I missed it. I'm sorry for that, Prabhuji. But you have nicely pointed out that in this age of Kali, the Yagya, the Sankirtan Yagya, and that is the way Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has told, and Janma Sarthakudu Parva Upakar, he is telling only on that, but I missed that point, and sorry for that. Thank you, Prabhuji, for pointing out.
No problem. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. You go ahead, Mataji.
Go Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much for such a nice class, and especially the wonderful that like a circle, the relationship between the living entities, the demigods, and the Supreme Lord. Like how if you work in unity, all of us will benefit, demigods, the living entities, and how we can go back to Krishna. That's very, very nicely you put it, and how everything has to be done as yagya. So I was just having a thought, like of course two things actually. Like we do say Bharatvarsha is the Punya Bhumi. So I just want to understand, like, is that synonymous with India or is it synonymous with the Earth planet? That's what I just wanted to understand. Because the demigods are saying we want to be born in the Earth planet. So does it, the Bharatvarsha, does it denote India or does it denote the Earth planet? That's what I just wanted to clarify. And also, like, yes, we do accept that all the great acharyas and the great Vedic culture, it's like a fountain. It starts from the Indian region and goes all across. But still we see a lot of, at least in the present day, lot of practices and so-called philosophies and other activities which are not probably not at all conducive to spiritual growth in India. So how do we understand that? Even though we say that like we are fortunate to be, people are fortunate to appear there, to be born there, but how do we reconcile that with what we see like happening in that part of the world? And also I just want to understand, like people, like, because 99% of us we are not familiar, or we are not favorably attuned to Krishna conscious practices. So how best our day-to-day activities, like other activities, what people are all performing, how that can be at least brought in a direction of yagya? So because Krishna conscious practices, most of the people, we are not familiar. So how we can at least slightly bring it towards yagya in terms of slight service to the Lord. So just wanted to understand your thoughts on that. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji. And if I have properly understood, you have got two part of the question and two questions. One is what is Bharatvarsha? What I wanted to refer. So Bharatvarsha, I mean, in Prabhupada's one place it has mentioned that Bharatvarsha, of course, specifically they are speaking about when in these verses in 519. Canto 5, chapter 19, you will see that from 19 onwards it is tale of Bharatvarsha. They have mentioned specifically geographical position also. They're in between Jamuna, Ganga and Jamuna, the tract of land between Ganga and Jamuna. So that literally refers to that land. But now Prabhupada has told that, why that was important, because it shows on that land the Varnashrama Dharma was being practiced and as a systematic way, and because it was helping people to elevate themselves spiritually. So Varnashrama Dharma, perfect Varnashrama Dharma, previously I'm talking about. So previously it was rightly done, and it was giving them the opportunity that Bharatvarsha it is being told. Now, at the moment, you are right in telling that the Varnashrama system is no more in existence. I mean, that way spiritually and strictly speaking. But Prabhupada has explained that whoever has got that knowledge, and because ISKCON is trying to bring Prabhupada in Prabhupada's word, the Varnashrama Dharma, that is the plan of the Lord, that the human society should live by taking advantage of the Varnashrama Dharma based on the qualities and the activities. So that way, although it is referring to, literally it was referring to Bharatvarsha in the geographically, but now those who has got this knowledge of Varnashrama Dharma and who are performing it, in ISKCON we are doing that. So we are trying to achieve it. It is not that all of us are completely following it, but gradually we're trying to do that in the society. So that is the, in my what I have understood is the Bharatvarsha it is referring to, because of the advantage of that, and who has got this knowledge that I'm not this body, and and human life is not meant for this just bodily comfort. So those who have got this knowledge, at the moment Prabhupada has told, it becomes their duty. Who has got this knowledge, he should first realize it and let others know that the human life is for a higher cause, and we have to do that. So that way. And the second one, regarding how we can on a day-to-day life, it is Prabhuji, what I think is that our activities, we are doing it, and by our example to others, being an example to others, we should imbibe on others that the life we are enjoying is a peaceful and the quality life, as against theirs who are totally absorbed in material enjoyment. So I think that is the only way by our conduct and behavior, we can influence others, so that others can feel that we are better than, we are leading a better life than them, if they understand it, not us by our when we say it doesn't hold good, but if others say about us that these people are better, then it has got an impact. So we have to elevate ourselves, our conduct in such a way that others are convinced that we are that as an organization we are doing better, we are offering a better life for others. I think that is the way, and that is the way the others will be influenced, and our activities will be spread in other areas, and the whole world will one day accept it. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. No, very nicely explained. Yes, should try to be this gentleman.
Yes.
And create the example. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
You nicely divided and connected the all points. Regarding the demigod's position, those who are worshipping the demigod, we know from the Bhagavad Gita that whatever we do the performance, it's all goes to the Krishna, Lord Krishna, because he is Bhaktaram, Jagna Purush, yeah. So, but we found in our experience, those are really doing the demigods worshipping, they will be in Krishna conscious one day? What's
I mean, I asked this, Mataji, incidentally, I asked this question yesterday to Devamrita Prabhu on the temple.
okay?
What should be our relation with who know who are Krishna conscious, but how will you deal with those who are believe in demigods? Then Devamrita Maharaj has, His Holiness Devamrita Maharaj has told that we should try to convince them by our by making them understand through our logic and influence. But I'm not sure whether they will accept it or not. To the extent we are able to communicate them or in other words, by educating them, we can, because they should know that just as in a company also, there are hierarchies, that means different levels of authority. So who is the highest person? He must have control over everything. If they say everyone is saying, it is not really a fact, but till they are not convinced, they may continue with that habit. But one day, if they understand it, they will accept that Krishna is the source of everything, as Krishna has told in Bhagavad Gita, Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo. And similarly, in 7.7, he has also Dumatta Parataram Nanna Kinchidosti Dhananjaya. That is one thing. And also in Nitto Nittanam Chetanam Chetanam. So that way also, that there is one person who is highest of all, and from who is maintaining everybody. So if they understand, I mean, this is the point we have to make them. Whether they accept it, maybe they may not accept it now, but in course of time, when their levels of consciousness improves, maybe they will accept one day. We have to do that, but we should not unnecessarily use our energy and things for that. Whoever understand, we try to make them understand. Who doesn't understand, we should leave them to be there in their own way for the time being.
Yes, thank you, Mataji. Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. Because I found they are really staunch for the demigods worship. They are very means, yeah. So that's sometimes I think if they can worship to Krishna, so they will be benefited. Yes. Okay, thank you, Prabhu. Yeah.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandot Pranam. Just can I add something, if you allow?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you.
Actually, as you mentioned, in an organization, how different heads are there, or in a simple college. In a college, we have different deans, and the ultimate is the chancellor. So, if somebody is attached to the chancellor and knows him very well, so he or she can easily connect the chancellor in a very straight way. So we need to understand the people. There are two ways. One is via and one is direct. Just like in the New Zealand education, fast track and slow track. So if you want to achieve fast track, this is the way. Slow track, through this way. So it is a via to reach the ultimate goal, but the goal is the same. So we need to educate them through Shastra and with the different association, that there are two ways. The choice is yours. If you want a fast track, this is the way. If you are slow track, this is the way. But the goal is the same. Hopefully that will help us to understand them and turn into real Krishna followers. One day they will understand and come back to us. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for clarification on that. Anyone wants to? Any more? So it appears there is no other person to make comment. So we are concluding this class now.
Sarubhascha kripa sindhubhayeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
namo
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 namah.
namaha Anantakoti
Koti
Vaishnavrinda
Vaishnav
ki
Vrinda ki
jai.
jai.
His Grace Abhay Charan Das Prabhu ki jai.
Jai.
Gaur Premanande Hari
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 Hari.
Bol. All glories to wonderful devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
And all glory to Srila Prabhupada.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.